everyone, I'm Lindsey Moppert here, joined by our NFL and Bills insider Vic Carucci. Vic, it's already Week 18, the final week of the regular season here, and what a game we have set up for this Sunday right here on Channel 2. It's going to be the Bills at Hard Rock Stadium to face the Dolphins in the biggest game of the season yet. A lot on the line, as I'm sure many know, the AFC East title along with a potential second seed in the playoffs if they can get there. And then, as I said, if they can get there, because they could also completely miss the playoffs. Vic, the first thing that I want to touch on with you are just the injuries for both squads. We saw the Bills injury report just came out. The Friday injury report, very clean. The only person that is listed as questionable for this week is Mitch Morse, and that's due to an illness, not necessarily an injury. Now, we look on the other side where the Dolphins, and it's very messy. I think you and I had talked about, I think there's maybe Bradley Chubb, obviously, he underwent surgery. Xavier Howard, he was ruled out as of this morning. And then there are several others that are either they've been limited a couple days this week at practice, or they are going to be questionable for this game. So you get the idea. But the big question here is, what could these injuries really mean for Buffalo, and how can they take advantage of them in this game on Sunday?
I think the Bills have a significant advantage with a healthier team going into a Week 18 game. When you look at it, this game is all about attrition. It's all about who can stay the healthiest the longest, because it's a 100% injury guarantee game. And the fact that the Bills are going into this game, as critical as it is, with more healthy bodies available, certainly should make a difference, because these are key players the Dolphins are either going to be missing or won't have at full capacity. Now, that's not to say that the Bills don't have some issues, even with players on the field. Going to keep an eye on Josh Allen, that injured shoulder, that injured finger, even though he fully practiced. And the same is going to go with some of the other players who are, quote, on the injury list, but fully practiced, because it can take away from your performance when you got various hurts. But I would say that stat alone, more healthy players than the Dolphins have right off the bat, gives the Bills a definite advantage.
And Vic, it's not like the Bills have not seen their fair share of injuries as well. McDermott says it all the time. It's part of the game, and it's just about that time in the season where you might expect that a little bit more from the Bills at this point. Now, Vic, I want to kind of turn here and take a look at the Bills' history with the Miami Dolphins and just how those matchups in the previous years have turned out. Buffalo has won 10 of their last 11 matchups. And then if you want to look at just Josh Allen by himself and his stats, a 9-2 record, over 3,000 passing yards, 31 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and 571 rushing yards with 5 touchdowns. Now, if you compare that to Tua's numbers, he has a 1-5 record with 5 touchdowns, along with also 5 interceptions. Why do you, Vic, feel that, the Bills and Josh Allen have had so much success against this Miami Dolphins team in the previous years?
The NFL is really a matchup league. We can look at, obviously, history, and it will tell us a lot. But when you go on a game-to-game basis, there's a reason sometimes why teams perform better against other opponents. Even if they're winning in multiple cases, sometimes the wins don't look as pretty against some teams, like the Patriots, for instance, and the defensive challenges that they can pose. When it comes to the Dolphins, who do have a lot of talent on both sides of the ball, there is just some matchup issues that favor the Bills. And a lot of that can come in the passing game. A lot of it can come with their inability to contain Josh Allen when he's on the move as either a thrower or a runner. And even though you've had the same person coaching that defense, Vic Fangio, who does a great job as a defensive coordinator by and large, finding answers for Allen is harder for him as it is for other coordinators, but especially for the players he has at his disposal. And that's just kind of how things flow. But it does seem year after year There's a psychological thing to it as well. The Bills knowing this is one of their biggest, if not their biggest, division rival at the moment. I mean, you can go back for years when you looked at the Patriots and how the Bills would see that as a mountain they had to climb. In terms of the Dolphins, I think it's a case of just fending them off and staying atop the division for Buffalo, and that's really what's happening.
And then, Vic, just looking at this season alone, this is now their second meeting so far. The first time around, the Bills dominated probably their best offensive performance, coming out on top there 48-20. Now, this time around, things are definitely different. We can dive into that a little bit more here in a second. But how much of a role do you really feel that could play in this game?
I think that what happened way back in week 4 doesn't necessarily translate to now because, first of all, it's a different Bills team defensively in a big way with Matt Milano no longer available to them. He was on the field then. Tre'Davious White was playing cornerback that day, and of course that was the game he suffers the Achilles injury. So big changes to the Bills defense on the personnel side from that point till now. However, I also think that the Bills defense in many ways has shown improvement because of, first of all, more familiarity with the type of scheming that Sean McDermott is doing in his first year as the Bills defensive coordinator as well as head coach, and also players rising to the challenge of filling those holes. You have Terrell Bernard, I think, playing some very good football, coming into his own as a young player and really flashing and making his presence known. And Rasul Douglas, just in the short time that he has been with this team after joining them at the trade deadline, watching how effective he has been as a ball-hawking cornerback. And I think that has also ignited a lot within the team because one of the issues with the defense early on was an inability to take the ball away, and you're seeing more of that. So, sure, you want Matt Milano in the lineup. You want Tre'Davious White at his healthiest out there as well. But it is, I think, comforting for the Bills to see that other players have stepped up.
And then, Vic, also, so we talk about the defense now, kind of turning to the offense. I'd say the biggest difference since that game, aside from, the defense losing Matt Milano, just might be, having Joe Brady. That first game, it was Ken Dorsey and the way that Ken Dorsey would, run this Bills offense. Do you think that Joe Brady can and will find the same answers that Dorsey did in that Week 4 matchup?
I think it's very interesting that you have this change at offensive coordinator, and the one game where the Bills excelled offensively at the highest level, it was Ken Dorsey who was running that offense. Now, in the games that followed, enough went wrong offensively to ultimately cost him his job and allow Joe Brady to take over, be promoted. So can Joe Brady live up to that one game standard? I think he's done a very credible job in the time he's been in there, and the team's winning record along the way has also exemplified that. But this is Joe Brady in his first stint calling plays and running an offense, going up against Vic Fangio, one of the most experienced defensive coordinators in the game, highly talented, highly regarded, a guy who knows so much about zone blitzing and utilizes that as well to confuse quarterbacks, confuse offensive coordinators. So, yes, Joe Brady's going to go back to that game. Now, he was part of it as quarterbacks coach, but he's going to go back to that Week 4 game as well as the other games the Dolphins have played and try to find those areas that can be exploited. But the offense really has not taken an explosive approach with Joe Brady. It's been much more of a methodical, even-keeled, run-first type of thing. I think there is really going to have to be more reliance on bigger plays and more explosiveness, mainly because that Dolphin offense can do that. And I think whatever chances the Dolphins take defensively with zone blitzing and so forth, Brady has got to have Josh Allen, the receivers, the offensive line, everybody ready to pounce on those opportunities.
And Vic, everybody includes Stefan Diggs, who you could almost say kind of his disappearance in this offense a little bit, and his level of production went down as Joe Brady was taking over a little bit. In that first game against the Dolphins, he was a huge part of the offense, and their success, had 3 touchdowns on that day. So as much as, you and I can say Josh's history with the Dolphins is, this and that, Diggs is also a huge part of that. So we're definitely going to have to see him take a big step on Sunday night. Now, the last thing that I want to touch on, Gabe Davis on Thursday in his press conference with the media, he said something that I wanted to bring up really quick. We've heard them say a lot, backs against the wall, this is how we play our best. He said, having our backs against the wall is our most comfortable spot. That's a strong take for sure. And, Vic, with everything that's on the line, AFC East title, 2nd seed in the playoffs, if they can even get there, before anyone knew how the middle of this season maybe would have played out, the expectation would be that they would be winning their 4th consecutive AFC East title. Now, how would you personally like to see this weekend pan out? Would you want the Bills to get some help and know that they are in the playoffs before Sunday night comes? Or would you rather kind of see it, all as one, all or nothing, win or go home?
I think the only thing that can matter to this team is winning a 4th consecutive division title and getting that 2nd seed. The obvious benefit to that is having a home game in the first round that could be against either Indianapolis or Houston, and then a likely second home game in the divisional round against Kansas City. So you're making these first 2 opponents that you'd face potentially play at Highmark Stadium, where the Bills are clearly a better team. So if they become the 6th seed and get in only as a wild card, because of the help they've gotten and end up losing to Miami, now it's a different story. Now you're traveling probably to Kansas City for that first game in the wild card round, and then you'd have to go to Baltimore to play a rested Ravens team. So not ideal, but put all that aside. The expectation of the Buffalo Bills was to be in the Super Bowl this season. That's what they're built for. And that means winning the division, playing like a potential Super Bowl team. And just because they got off track a couple of months ago and have been scrambling to just get into the postseason, that can't lower the expectation. That can't be the reason to say, okay, great, the Bills got to the playoffs. Whew. It can't be a relief. It's got to be more of a foregone conclusion. And I think that's the way they have to treat it, that they're better than what their play for the most part this season has indicated. And the only way to get there is to do it, to take care of your own business, regardless of what happens before the game, win the game, win the division, get that 2nd seed, and really pave your way to Las Vegas, to the Super Bowl. Because anything short of that, no matter how they get in the postseason, anything short of that is going to be a major disappointment.
Vic, I love the passionate answer. That's exactly what you want to hear. So thank you for all of that. And again, you can catch all of the game action, pre and post game coverage right here on Channel 2 before that Sunday night football game. And our coverage will be starting on 6 o'clock on Sunday night. But for now, for Vic Carucci, I'm Lindsey Moppert. We'll see you back here next Friday.